All right, let's get right into it. We often talk about AI in terms of code and data and processing power. But what if the most important part of AI isn't the technology at all? What if it's the story we tell ourselves about it? Today, we're going to explore why that story is heading towards its most critical chapter yet, and why 2026 is the year everyone should be watching.
This quote, it just nails it, doesn't it? Dr. Anosha isn't talking about algorithms here. He's talking about mythology. On one hand, you've got Prometheus, who gave fire to humanity and basically changed our destiny forever. And on the other, you have Pandora's box, which, well, it unleashed all sorts of things we didn't see coming. That's the epic scale we're dealing with, a story of absolutely immense promise and some pretty profound risk.
And this right here is why the story matters so much. See, when a technology becomes infrastructural, when it's just woven into our healthcare, our finances, our everyday lives, we kind of stop seeing it. It just fades into the background. And at that point, the narrative we've built around it, what we believe it's for, starts to shape our reality just as much as the actual code does.
So to really get where we're going, we first have to understand where we've been. And let me tell you, the story of AI has been anything but a straight line. It's been a wild ride. Let's take a quick look.
The history of AI is a total drama of soaring highs and then these crushing lows. You had this incredible burst of optimism in the 50s, but that was followed by decades of what they called AI winters, where all the funding just dried up because the promises were way too big. But then the 2010s rolled around, deep learning changed the entire game, and that led directly to the generative AI explosion that we are all living through right now. So here's the crucial point. Even with all this mind-blowing progress, a new sense of realism is setting in. The costs to train these models are just staggering, and true artificial general intelligence, or AGI, is still pretty far off. So the whole conversation has shifted. The story isn't a sci-fi fantasy about robot overlords anymore. It's become a much more practical question. How can these tools actually help us in a reliable way?
And that brings us to the main event. What is it about 2026 that makes it such a turning point in this whole story? Well, it's the year that AI essentially gets a big promotion.
This is the year we're projected to see AI move from being a reactive tool that we have to command to being a proactive actor that acts on our behalf. And that is a fundamental, game-changing shift in our relationship with technology. The key term you're going to hear everywhere is Agentic AI. So forget just asking a chatbot a simple question. We are talking about systems that can understand a really complex goal, like, hey, plan my family's entire week-long vacation to Italy, book the flights, find the hotels, and stay within my budget, and then it can independently plan and execute all the little steps to make that happen. So what's that actually going to look like in the real world? Well, these agents will manage entire workflows, becoming like genuine partners at work. They'll help scientists speed up discoveries, and a lot of this will happen directly on your phone or your laptop, not just in the cloud. It's a massive leap in what these things can do. But it's not just happening in a digital world. The second huge shift coming around 2026 is that AI is getting a body. We're seeing this amazing convergence of these powerful AI models with really advanced robotics. And that's opening the door for breakthroughs in manufacturing and healthcare, and yeah, maybe even for help around the house. Now, it is really important to keep a level head about all this. While the promise is enormous, there's also some very healthy skepticism. I mean, after decades of AI winters and overhype, a lot of experts think 2026 will bring some absolutely incredible demos. But that widespread, everyday use of these physical robots, that's probably still a little further down the road. So, with all this new power just over the horizon, we come to the central conflict in the story of AI. It's a clash between two fundamentally different philosophies about how we should move forward. And this is a question for all of us because the path we take, it isn't set in stone. It's a choice that we're going to make. On one side, you have the story of acceleration. This is the classic move fast and break things idea. In this version, progress is all about bigger, faster models. And those tough questions about ethics, well, they can be dealt with later. But there's another story emerging, deliberation. This narrative says, hang on, transformation is a choice, not something that's just happening to us. In this story, success is measured by stability and resilience, with ethics and governance built in from the very start. And this is why that choice of narrative is so absolutely critical.
The story we adopt as a society directly shapes our laws, our investments, and our trust. It decides what we consider an acceptable risk and who even gets a voice in these monumental decisions. The story we tell literally becomes policy. And the stakes just couldn't be higher. We are talking about huge economic shifts, a new front in the geopolitical competition between nations, and of course, ethically, we are facing some of the most profound questions our species has ever had to answer. It's a big deal. So, this brings us to the final act. We are all authors of this story, whether we realize it or not. The responsibility for writing the next chapter, that falls on us. This is the question that Agentic AI forces us to face head on. If an autonomous AI system makes a mistake, in medicine, in finance, whatever, who is responsible? Is it the user, the developer, the company that owns it, the AI itself? We don't have clear answers yet, and we need them fast.
And that's just one of the ethical minefields we're walking into. As these systems get more powerful, the risks of them amplifying our existing biases or eroding our privacy or creating hyper-realistic disinformation on a massive scale, those risks become incredibly serious.
This quote just perfectly captures the spirit of that deliberation narrative. This isn't about the limits of technology anymore. It's about the wisdom of our own choices. Just because we can do something doesn't mean we should. We have to be the ones to decide what role we want this technology to play in our world.
So, how do we write a better story? Well, it starts with education, making sure everyone understands what's at stake. It requires strong governance and regulation to set up some guardrails. And crucially, it demands inclusive design, bringing more voices to the table, not just engineers, to decide how this technology is built and who it's for. Ultimately, the goal here is not to stop progress. It's to redefine what we mean by progress. It's about having the courage to write a story that values care and honesty. And it's about having the wisdom to recognize that sometimes the wisest move isn't to speed up, but to be deliberate, that sometimes restraint is its own form of progress.
And that leaves us with the final question. This isn't a story that's just happening to us. It's a story we are co-writing with the very tools we've built. The plot isn't set, and the ending is still unwritten. So the question for all of us is, what kind of future do we want that story to tell?